What's going on, guys? My name is Baylor. This is our new segment called No Ball or No Ball, where we are going to be covering some of the biggest games in the country. We're going to be having some of the biggest interviews with some wild questions, some wild takes. This is going to be your one place to have that all. We've got a loaded episode for you guys. We're going to be taking a look at the top 16 teams in the country, with 4 of those number 1 seeds going to be from the SEC. We will also be taking a look at some of the loaded games on Saturday coming up, and some of the top 5 draft prospects to be watching for in this year's March Madness. This episode's going to be loaded. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you guys very much. Let's get into it. I did want to come on here and just let everybody know what the topic of discussion was this past weekend, because it was ridiculous, and I don't understand why this was even a topic of discussion. Our cameraman slash editor decided to have the greatest take ever about Bryce Young being somehow in this right now being a top 10 quarterback. That is the worst thing I've ever heard. Not only did he say that Bryce Young today is a top 10 quarterback, he said that Bryce Young will win a ring in the next 3 years. Now, he's not going off of what if Bryce Young had an offensive line. He's not going off of what if Bryce Young had wide receivers. Don't even worry about the defense, because Joe Burrow doesn't have one. He's a top 10 quarterback in the league. If Bryce Young had those two things, maybe, but he's not even going off of that. He's going off of this season where he was benched midseason by Andy Dalton. It's ridiculous. Everyone that we talked to and that we interviewed said no. I really don't understand how this is even a thought in somebody's head that watches the NFL consistently. It's just a ridiculous take. I just wanted everyone to be aware of it. We have some clips on TikTok with more coming out about this, but it's the worst thing I've ever heard. I mean, I've heard a lot of really bad takes. Marshawn Lynch being the greatest running back of all time, Jerry Jones being the best GM in the league. I've heard a lot of different, ridiculous takes. This one tops it by far. But I did want to switch gears, and I did want to look into the top 16 teams that I've got here going into March Madness, with 3 of them being the 1 seed from the SEC. So let's dive into that. With the first number 1 seed, we've got Auburn, the number 1 team in the country. I mean, right now they're my pick to win this loaded SEC. So I've got Auburn as the number 1 overall seed. Take Duke at 2. I think Duke's going to solidify that. They're going to win out the ACC. They are legit the second best team in the country, so I think they're phenomenal. 3 seed, I've got Alabama. This team on the offensive end is, other than Kentucky, they're probably the best offensive team that I've watched this year. Now, their defense is an issue. Missouri put up 110 on them the other day, so that's something to look forward to when March comes around. But I think that Alabama, with how well they can score the ball, I think that they can make a deep run. And then Florida. I think Florida's got the best backcourt in the country, multiple 7-footers. They did just lose to Georgia on the road the other night, but I think that despite that loss, I think they're going to be really good and make a deep run in the tournament. 5, a lot of people are going to be upset with this. I'm not sure, but Tennessee, I think they're going to be at that 2 line. I'm just not convinced with Tennessee this year. To be completely honest with you, I'm not really sure how they're in the top 10. They're just slightly overrated this season. They don't really have that guy like they did with DK. I like Chaz as a player. I just don't think that he's what a lot of Tennessee fans expected him to be. But Tennessee at that 2 line, that's perfectly fine. And then Texas A&M at the 6th seed. I've got Texas A&M. They're really good. I like them a lot. I think that they're going to not only make a deep run in the SEC tournament, but in March. I've got Purdue after them out of the Big Ten. I love Purdue. I think they're good. They could slip just depending on what happens in the Big Ten tournament, but I like them right there. 8, I've got Houston. I think that actually this is a little bit low for Houston. I do want to wait and see how the Big 12 championship turns out to be, but I think Houston's going to maybe slip up, maybe take Texas A&M's spot. We'll have to see, though. 9, Iowa State. They've been that top 10 team all year. I don't think they're going to win the Big 12, but I definitely think that they could make some noise. And then at that 10 seed, I've got Kentucky. I really think that, honestly, I think Kentucky can move up. They just squeaked out of a win against Oklahoma last night, um, and then they've got a big game against Auburn on Saturday. So I think that I'm sorry, Kentucky. I think Kentucky could slip, or they could rise. This team has been very inconsistent this year, so I'm going to keep them kind of middle of the pack right now. Wisconsin at 11. They did get upset by Oregon the other day. I did take Wisconsin, so I will take the L on that pick, but I do like Wisconsin at that 11 line. Arizona 12. I think Arizona should be a little bit lower, but I think I'm just going to stick them at 12 right now. Texas Tech at 13. Michigan at 14, who I think actually probably has the best shot, aside from Michigan State, to win the Big Ten. I actually think that Big Ten championship very well could be Michigan State, Michigan. That's going to be a fun matchup to watch if they do play for the Big Ten championship. St. John's at 15. I really like what Rick Pitino's done with this team. Love it. I think that they're going to make a deep run. They're actually one of my Final Four dark horses if Kentucky doesn't make it. So, and then Kansas, I had them at 16. They're not in the top 25 anymore, so I'll probably actually have to take Kansas out. But at the time that I made this list, Kansas was a top 16 seed to me. But yeah, so that's my top 16 teams. I really do like the placing of those, except Kansas. Excuse me. I don't think that Kansas is going to be, sure, they'll make the tournament. Are they a second weekend team? I'm not entirely sure. It's just going to depend on how they finish out the season and what noise they can make going into March. Let's shift gears, though, over to Saturday. We've got some big games. I'm not really sure how College Game Day didn't come to this, but it's going to be Kentucky hosting #1 Auburn. That's probably my game of the week right there, just because of what's at stake. Primarily for Kentucky, because I think this game is going to be the difference between them being a 3 seed and a 2 seed. I don't think necessarily Auburn has anything to worry about. If they lose to the 17 team in the country, they're still going to be the #1 overall seed, in my opinion. Yeah, 1 o'clock tip-off. They're pretty much matched, similar on the offensive end. Kentucky does allow 76 points a game, though, to Auburn's 68. So I think that's going to be something to worry about if the Cats can get it done defensively. But other than that, I really like that. I'm not sure what the spread is. If it's close, I'm going to take Auburn to cover. I think Auburn does win this game, but if Kentucky's healthy, it could definitely change the narrative. We've also got #6 Alabama at #5 Tennessee. That has a lot of implications on that, because that's going to be the difference, honestly, to me, between if Alabama's a 1 seed or a 2 seed, if they can get this win. They've had the hardest schedule I've seen all year long. I think that they are legit, and if they can get this win, I think that's going to solidify their 1 seed. Texas A&M at Florida, that's another big game because those two teams are in my top 16. I think that Texas A&M needs to win this game to stay on the 2 line. I'm not familiar with the rest of their season, but this is a big game in the Florida. I just think Florida needs a bounce back win from that Georgia loss. I'm going to go ahead and take Florida at home, though, for that one. I really like Florida, and then I'll do one more. I've got Arizona at Iowa State, 9 o'clock on Saturday. Again, 2 top 16 teams. I'm going to take Arizona on this one. I think that Caleb Love needs a big game like this, and I've got him over Iowa State. And then I did want to switch gears, and I did want to talk about the top 5 prospects to look forward to in March Madness. With exception of one, I'm not really sure if his team will make March Madness or not, but the rest, I think it's pretty solidified. So at 5, I'm going to have VJ Edgecombe from Baylor. I love this kid. He's super raw. I think if you can go to a team that can develop him, he's going to be absolutely legit.
John Winner. Wow! VJ Edgecombe, my goodness.
4, I've got Casper Siakachonis from Illinois. This kid reminds me a lot of kind of like a Gordon Hayward build, but with better playmaking. So And I think his team's definitely going to make March, and I think he's going to be a star in March.
See stuff like a record, but also you know what you're getting with Yakachonis. You know what you're getting with Ivasic. This is
so definitely look for him to see if his draft stock can rise. 3, I've got Ace Bailey from Rutgers. Again, super raw. Sometimes he does dribble into double teams, takes some difficult shots, but I think that if he can get to a team that can develop him, I think he's going to be really good in the league.
So, you know, the plays work a lot better. The ball's going in with some of these guys. Oh, the cross, Bailey.
2, I've got Dylan Harper. He has been battling injuries this year, but I think he's too good not to be a top 3 pick.
Dylan
Harper. And then number 1, Cooper Flagg, probably the best prospect that I've seen. I'd say probably in the last 10-15 years. You could argue Zion. I just think Cooper's a little bit more versatile. Zion's more get to the rim. Cooper is, take you off the dribble, mid-range pull-up, corner 3.
On that they show them, hey, you're in these games. They just got to do little things better here and there to turn the L's into W's.
And so I just think that his game is a little bit more polished than Zion's was. And I think he's going to do really good in the league. That's it for this episode, though. Thank you guys for checking in. Again, this is a weekly series. We are going to be covering a lot of games, a lot of different topics, especially going into conference play and March Madness. We're also going to be taking a look at a lot of baseball coming up here after March, some NASCAR, some F1, and we're also going to be including some interviews that we get that go on our regular YouTube channel. Make sure to look out for those every Friday at noon. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out.